So you are convinced you are dealing with knee pain, shin splints, or even ankle issues, and you want to give knees over toes a try. But it's pretty overwhelming, right? It's a lot of information, and it sounds a little sketch. Well, in this video, I'm gonna go over with you my thoughts on knees over toes, and even give a sample full body routine that I would do if I was new to this methodology. And please do keep in mind, I am not a certified physical therapist or anything like that. I am just an average guy that has been following this style of training for over 2.5 years.
With that said, my opinion on knees over toes is that it will most likely be rejected by traditional fitness folks and physical therapists. And that's because our academic textbooks teach us that hyperextending beyond the knee is bad for us, and it is ingrained into our heads to neglect these other movement types. But just think about it. If we don't train a specific part of our body because there's pain, do you think as it gets weaker, it will magically heal? Listen, I studied Spanish for a handful of years growing up in school, and because I stopped studying it, I basically only know how to say hola and gracias. All I'm trying to say is that in certain aspects of life, the moment we stop working on it, it becomes weaker and weaker. The whole idea of knees over toes and prehab is to heal the pain by strengthening the weak areas of your body and to prevent or at least reduce injuries by keeping those neglected areas strong and healthy. So from a philosophical standpoint, I absolutely love knees over toes. Most of us live our lives out on a continuous journey towards a path of least resistance, always going for what is easy and comfortable. But real growth is almost always found in the path of most resistance and in developing our weaknesses. From a practical perspective, I think everyone should be doing knees over toes, whether you're 20 years old or 75 years old. I know Ben Patrick, the knees over toes guy, markets heavily towards athletes and basketball players, but I think anyone can get started on this style of training. We as men and women need to deviate away from the idea of working on our tendons and ligaments only when we are injured or recovering as part of the rehab routine. In lieu, we should be actively working on those tiny muscles when we are healthy. We should be conditioning our tendons and ligaments even when we are not hurt. Preventative care and maintenance is also the name of the game when it comes to your teeth. If you floss and brush your teeth daily, you will reduce the pain your mouth will experience in the long run. This is a fact. So why don't we do the same when it comes to our hip flexors, Achilles tendon, patellar tendon, and even rotator cuffs? And because we don't do that, we wonder why we are always injured and in pain. Maybe that's why your wife's boyfriend has bigger feet than you. Jokes aside, that's my thoughts on knees over toes. Now let's talk about a full body routine so easy, even a Trump supporter can do it. So I'm going to pretend as if I am new to knees over toes and I want to incorporate this prehab-rehab style of training. This is how I would do it. I would start with my head and make my way down to the toes. One area we neglect is the neck, which is a shame because the neck is responsible for supporting our most important organ, the brain. A weak neck can lead to a whole dozen list of issues, including frequent headaches and posture issues. So the first thing I would do are neck curls. I know it looks silly and easy, but depending on how big your head is, it's actually quite challenging. And don't even try to lie to me. Your head is so big, when people sit behind you at the movie theater, they actually have to get up and move seats. So if you're a big old head, I think this will be a good workout. If you have access to a gym, it's easier to do this on a bench. But if you don't, you can just do it on the edge of your bed or even your couch, like me. And this movement is pretty straightforward. I'm just tilting my head back and then curling it forward. I would only do 8 to 15 reps depending on how difficult it is for 2 sets. And to be honest, I would only do this once a week. When I first started training my neck, it would be sore for like a week or so please be careful. And that's because our neck is one of the most neglected parts of our body, alongside your big puffy pepperoni nipples. The next area of focus would be my shoulders. It's not about getting big bowling ball shoulders, but rather the emphasis is on having shoulders that are flexible and functional. My most favorite shoulder exercise, keeping the prehab philosophy in mind, are dead hangs. Doing this keeps your grip strength sharp, but more importantly, it trains your scapula, deltoids, and surrounding area to push past its usual day-to-day range of motion. Think of it as extending your knees over your toes, but the shoulder version. I also think this is really good for your rotator cuff, and it's one way to get a good spine decompress. You basically just hang on a pull-up bar with your hands about shoulder width apart, and depending on your fitness level, or let's be truthful here, the size of your beer gut, I'd say go for 20 seconds at a minimum, and up to 60 seconds if you're in shape. I do this every day because I find that it's not very taxing on the central nervous system, and it's a part of my daily mobility routine. If hanging on a bar is too difficult, I would do these. I don't know what they're called. I just call them windmill circles, but unofficially, they're known as Lou raises. Hold on to something light, such as a water bottle, and go in circles with a slight bend in your elbow. Or if you're at the gym, grab 10 or 15 pound dumbbells. That works fine as well, or you can grab the plates. I discovered this from Olympic powerlifters. It's how they warm up their rotator cuffs before they throw 400 pounds over their heads. And if I were to sum it up in a sentence, this mobility exercise literally trains the tissue inside of your shoulder to have greater stability and strength, but also reinforces your joints to be bulletproof. No, it's not going to make your ding-dong bigger, but you'll feel a difference after about 8 weeks. Then for your core, forget about the sit-ups and crunches and all of that 6-minute abs nonsense. If you really want to build core strength and have a rock-solid spine, then focus on your obliques and training unbalanced. The traditional school of thought is to always lift your weights with an equal proportion and weight distribution, right? But training while holding the weight only on one side activates your posterior and anterior chain to respond in a much more efficient way. And it slaps differently. For me personally, I do gorilla rows and offset farmer carries, but I don't think that's beginner friendly. What is actually beginner friendly are oblique raises, what you see on the screen. That's what I call them. By working on this part of your body, you can reduce your risk of an injury when you pick up or carry something. Think about how practical it is in real life. If you have to carry your child, lug around a heavy suitcase, if you're trying to only make one trip to the car after making a grocery run, or if you're trying to flip your walrus of a partner, the list goes on and on. It's really practical. If our obliques are weak, our chances of pulling a muscle in our back or hurting yourself goes through the roof. So forget the abs and focus on the obliques. So when it comes to the oblique raises, I just do it with my rucksack, and my ruck weighs about 75 pounds. But if you're just starting out, even 20 pounds will feel good. And I would do 10 repetitions on each side, and I would do 3 sets. I try to do this twice a week at a minimum, ideally up to 3 times a week. Now I have a question for you. Where do you think most of our power, explosive energy is generated from? No, it's not from the butthole. It actually originates in the hips, from sprinting to jumping, or even from kicking to walking up a steep set of stairs. I didn't even know how to or understand the benefits of training hip flexors until about 2 years ago when I began this balanced body journey. And truth be told, the hip flexors are weak on the average person because nobody works them out. Nobody even knows about them. Sure, some people stretch the hip flexors, but stretching does not efficiently strengthen that area. If we neglect training our psoas muscle and hip flexors, it leads to a whole boat of problems like lower back pain, tight leg muscles, stability issues, and whatnot. And because most of us spend 7 to maybe 10 hours a day sitting in a chair, almost every single one of us watching this video right now has tight hip flexors that are probably weak. So I train my hip flexors 2 to 3 times a week, usually before bed, as it's not really strenuous or stressful. My favorite are the single leg knee raises. So basically, I just have one leg lifted up from the ground and tend to just raise it even higher as one repetition. And I try to do 8 to 10 reps on each leg. And as a side benefit, doing this, working on your hip flexors, will help improve your balance. And I'll tell you what, when you first start out, you'll be hopping all over the place. And by doing this for 6 weeks straight, you will start to feel a little more stable. No, you're not going to see or feel any difference in the first week, but if you're consistent and you stay at it, you will see a noticeable difference. Now it's time for the knee. We should all be nodding our heads when I tell you the knee is a source of our pain and misery, or the knee can set us free. And I'll be honest, there's like 50 different exercises you can do to strengthen your knee, and it really depends on where your pain is located, whether it's in the front or in the back or in the inside. But thinking in the lens of what is the best overall knee exercise, it's hard for me to pick just one. If you are completely new to fitness, then I would say the Poliquin step-ups. You basically just step up and down from a raised surface. In this example, I'm using a step stool. If you don't have a step stool, you can also use the first step of a staircase. And you want to make sure that your knee is beyond your toes as you do this. And you want to tap the ground with your heel. I would say doing about 10 repetitions on each leg, 2 sets a day, 4 to 5 times a week is okay. Now here's the thing. If you have a basic understanding of the gym, then I would argue the single best knee exercise is the A to G split squat. This is one of those exercises that takes time to really master because it takes some flexibility to do this. Like your balls are literally touching the floor. And when it comes to the ATG split squat, I would do 10 on each leg, 3 sets at a time, twice a week would be ideal. And what I'm currently struggling with is ankle pain because I had a minor injury the other day. I play soccer multiple times a week as a guy in his 30s. It's a way for me to get a good workout in, but also it's just really fun to learn a new sport as an older guy. Anyways, during a pickup game, when I was shooting the ball, a defender stepped on my planted foot's ankle and I twisted it as I was following through after the shot. I remember I immediately fell and hopped around in pain until the practice session was over. That incident definitely bruised up some of the ligaments in the ankle, and the following week felt very similar to an ankle sprain. So with that said, the reason I truly believe it didn't turn into a major injury is because I have been bulletproofing my ankles day in and day out for a long time leading up to that accident. Which to me is a testimony that this stuff really works as long as I am consistent and doing it nearly daily. I have a whole routine I do just for my ankles because I have wide, flat feet and I am prone to ankle injuries. So take it from me, work on your ankles because you never know when an accident is going to happen. Having strong ankles isn't just luck. It can also be acquired. So regardless of your physical ability, I think everyone can do this one. These are single leg calf raises with prolonged isometric holds. I would do 8 reps while holding at the top with each repetition and do as many sets as possible, whether that's only 1 set to even like 20 sets, twice a week. For me personally, I do them to the point where I feel a cramp coming on. And when I feel that cramp, then I know I only need to do 1 more set. And you can do it with just your body weight if you're fat or if you're weak or skinny. And you can also do it while wearing a very heavy backpack or a rucksack or with a barbell on your back. And while you're doing these, focus on putting the weight on the forefoot and having your ankle slightly locked out. When I do this, I feel tension and pressure on my Achilles tendon, which to me is a good thing because I would rather have that feeling in a controlled environment than out in the wild by accident. By working on the calf muscle and isometric holds, you won't have a sensitive Achilles tendon. Speaking of which, isometric holds are amazing to build that muscular endurance for the tendon. What you see is me doing isometric lunge holds. It looks really easy, right? Try doing it for 60 seconds straight. You will feel intense shaking in your hip flexors, Achilles tendon, calf, and even your butthole. I am not kidding. I can make a full dedicated video just for the ankles. If you are interested in that, let me know. And lastly, let's talk about the foot. The best thing you can do for your feet is to make sure you clean between your toes because your feet smell like vomit. I'm just trying to tell you what your wife's boyfriend has been telling me. I'm kidding. The best thing you can do for your feet is to not wear pillowcase cushioned shoes day in and day out.
Oh, but I have plantar fasciitis.
No. Your big Hoka Ona Ones are counterintuitive to making your feet stronger. Just hear me out. As a matter of fact, if your feet are in a cast or pillow prison for 8 hours a day, they will just get weaker and weaker. And if a body part gets weaker, you're going to experience more pain and increase the chances of an injury. I'm literally not trying to step on any podiatrist toes here, but our feet were designed with over 100 tiny muscles, 33 joints, and 26 bones. And I don't think it's wise to neglect training your feet. So my last knees over toes exercise would be something we can do every day, and that's wearing barefoot shoes. Or the easier to understand semantic would be minimalist footwear. I have a pair of $150 ones and a cheap $10 pair. They both work just the same. By removing all of the cushion, padding, and air bubbles of a shoe, you are forcing your foot and the surrounding area to get stronger every time you go out for a walk or for a run. And by wearing barefoot shoes, your neglected pinky toe that's usually crushed at the top of your shoe will have the opportunity to be of use with a bigger and wider toe box. Now, I made a video talking about my barefoot journey if you're interested, but I wouldn't go 0 to 100 on the first day, which brings me to today's video sponsor, which is your Big Belly Button. No, I'm just kidding, but wouldn't that have been the perfect opportunity for a sponsored plug? So there you have it, folks. That would be my simple, full body routine for a beginner that is trying to get into this. And let me know if you have any questions, because a lot of this is kinda scary and intimidating. But I can assure you, you've got what it takes. Do not judge your progress and timeline with someone else's. Your journey is going to be unique to you, and reaching a balanced body and good health is something that I genuinely wish for you. And here's the disclaimer and some other stuff I wanted to call out. Obviously, I didn't mention every area of the body, like the butthole or scrotum, but this is what I would do if I was a beginner and I wanted to incorporate knees over toes for my entire body. And call me rude, but these exercises shouldn't drench you in sweat. So I would add them to the beginning of another workout or at the end of a workout. For instance, maybe I do the full routine, stretch a bit, and then I go for a run or swim some laps at the pool. Or if you're a meathead that follows a push-pull legs routine, then you can break these down into the corresponding category and then do them as a warm-up. And to be transparent, I have never paid for the Knees Over Toes program. But these are the exercises that make sense to me and provide the most bang for your buck. Because what good are doing bicep curls 2 to 4 times a week and having big arms if your body is actually frail and weak? I think it's more important to have a functional body than to have sexy ass arms and legs. Wouldn't you rather have bulletproof ankles and a knee that can bend all the way? Anyways, I want to say it again. I wish you good luck in your journey to having good health, because I've been there before. When you are sick or in pain, you would do anything to be healthy again. Well, maybe not eating a piece of dog turd. That's why some people even say your health is your wealth. My goodness, I feel like I'm about to go on a 30-minute rant, so I'll just leave you with this. Do something today or tomorrow that your future self will thank you for. Be better and do better. See ya.